Hey there! The Spider-Verse is a massive thing, right? There are so many incredible and unique variants of our good old Peter that span multiple universes, and with two of Marvel Rivals' in-game maps tied so closely to the Spider-Verse, it feels odd to me that we haven't gotten a single Spider character since the launch of the game, despite the roster of playable characters expanding by soon-to-be 10 characters. So I've taken it upon myself to create movesets for an entire team's worth of Spider people, and yes, for those of you that are rewatching, that includes number 6. I'm just about to tell you the rules that I set out for myself so I don't just rattle all 6 of my favorite Spider variants from the comics. If you want to skip to the actual movesets, then just skip to right here, or just look at the chapters. Okay, are they gone now? They are? Alright, so here are the rules. Number 1, this team has to be a 2-2-2 comp, meaning that I have to compose this team of 2 vanguards, 2 duelists, and 2 strategists. For those of you that don't play the game, that's 2 big beefy boys to take the damage for the team, 2 Rageaholic demons to deal twice as much damage back, and 2 frantic medics trying desperately to keep everyone else alive. Number 2, all of these movesets have to be inspired by the character's comic counterparts. No adaptations are taken into account for the inspiration behind these movesets. Number 3, different to my last video, there is no story or cinematic in this video with my horrible parody of an action trailer voiceover. There are just the movesets and how these characters will play. Number 4, this is more formatting and less of a rule. I'm going to list a character's name, class, health, and tell you a bit about their backstory before going to the actual kit that will involve 1 passive ability, 3 regular abilities, 1 ultimate ability, and 1 team up. I will also be showing a couple of different looks from mainly the comics as ideas for skins for these characters, although I will be including some adaptation variants if I think that they're popular enough to be added. Number 5, this rule is for you and not me. If you think at any point of another cool ability or a move for a character, pause the video and type it in the comments below before resuming. Don't let your good ideas go to waste in your head, type them up and send them out. With that all being said and done, that's all of the rules out of the way, let's get into this. Gwen Stacy of Earth-65 is her universe's Spider-Person, gaining her powers from a genetically engineered spider made by her world's Cindy Moon. She plays drums in her band, the Mary Janes, and was inspired to be more heroic after killing her universe's lizard, Peter Parker. She currently resides in the 616 main Marvel universe and still operates as Ghost Spider. In the kit that I have made for her, Ghost Spider is a strategist with 200 health. As with any good strategist, her primary fire will be able to heal allies and damage enemies. For her passive, Gwen has Keeping the Beat Down, where for every single consecutive hit that she lands on an enemy, her damage will increase up to a maximum of 250% of her original damage. For her first active ability, I've given Gwen Count Off, where she counts 4 times off on her drumsticks, and for every single time, she sends a sound wave out that knocks back any enemies nearby and heals any teammates. Gwen's second ability is on Resource, and it is called Swing Beat. It acts exactly the same as Spider-Man's Web Swing ability, however, any enemies that she comes into contact with during her swing are immediately grabbed by Gwen and thrown backwards at the end of the swing. For her third active ability, Gwen throws down a vial of radioactive spider isotopes that temporarily boost her teammates' attack damage as well as healing them. For her ultimate ability, the Star of the Mary Janes, Gwen plays a drum solo that heals or buffs allies in a certain area around her, similar to Luna Snow's ability, Fate of Both Worlds. However, during this ability, Gwen is stationary, and the drums in front of her act as a shield, although she can still be attacked from behind. Ghost Spider's team-up ability is called Spare Provisions, and the anchor for this team-up is Wasp. This team-up simply speeds up the regeneration of the resources that Gwen uses for both her primary fire and for Swing Beat. The kit that I have created for Ghost Spider here is to encourage a playstyle of essentially camping a point and keeping people away from her. I felt like after making the rest of this kit, Gwen didn't have a lot of capability of offensive output, which I believe a lot of sports need if they ever get soloed out and backed into a corner. So her being able to take on a possible rogue flanking duelist by herself felt very important to me. Her first active ability was how I started figuring out what kind of playstyle I wanted from Gwen. With this ability, she can easily keep enemies off the point and use her drumsticks as sort of a battle cry to rally her teammates up. Gwen's second active ability was something that I thought of whilst trying to merge Gwen's powers and tech with the kind of playstyle that I wanted her to have. Not giving her an overly duelist-style offense was my initial idea, and I felt like every Spider-Person not named Penny Parker needs to have that iconic swing in their set. So this is another way that Gwen can get rid of her enemies without making her damage output unreasonably high. I realized after making those first 2 abilities that Gwen didn't have a lot of resource or usefulness outside of from just being annoying and pushing enemies away, so giving her access to the very isotopes that created her radioactive spider and were intended to heal people felt like a reasonable way to give her that more strategisty edge. Gwen is the drummer for the Mary Janes in her civilian life, and being a musician myself, I wanted to accentuate that in her moveset, so I gave her an ability that reflected her musicianship. Luna Snow has an ultimate already where she sings that heals her allies, So I figured that I could make this different by making Gwen stationary, as a drum set doesn't tend to wander that far off in the span of 10 to 15 seconds. Making the drums a shield was also a way to add a small but not omnipresent or all-encompassing safety net from, the bane of every Luna Snow ultimate. On her Earth, Gwen's web shooters are not homemade. They were instead designed by a retired Wasp. So I figured that the designs would make intuitive sense for whichever version of the Wasp ends up in Rivals, and that she would be able to provide a quick, temporary upgrade to the shooters or whip up some spare cartridges for Gwen on the fly. Anya Corazon is a magically powered spider person who gained her abilities after saving Miguel Lagar of the Spider Society from an assassination attempt. She later joined to become one of their hunters, although she is no longer a member of the organization. Anya has several unique powers, one of them being that she can encase herself in a carapace-like body armor. Araña is a duelist with 250 health. Her passive move is Sentido de Araña. When Anya is under 100 health or about to take lethal damage, her ability Carapacho automatically activates if it is not on cooldown. Her first active ability, Carapacho, is a carapace that covers Anya and has 250 health. She cannot swing whilst it's activated, and the ability can be cancelled prematurely. Her second ability is Columpio de Araña, which is a standard swing that works just like how Spider-Man's or Venom's works, but it runs on a resource. Her third active ability is Golpe de Aire. Araña rolls up into her carapace to dive and smack an enemy player backwards, stunning them and dealing massive damage. Her ultimate is Spirit of the Hunter. Anya gets a damage boost and auto aim on all of her attacks, plus bonus health for a limited amount of time, with the drawback that she takes extra damage. Her team up is Shadow Spider with Cloak and Dagger, and means for 20 seconds when activated, all of Araña's projectiles become invisible. Araña's purpose in her team composition is to flank up behind the enemies, dive in, and draw their attention backwards and away from the point, disrupting their entire game plan. I gave her the Carpaccio ability because I felt like if Araña is going to be diving into the middle of an enemy team, she might need to have some kind of a guarantee that if she overextends herself accidentally, she can get out of the situation. Araña's Columpio de Araña swing is just a must for spider people at this point. It's an iconic part of being a spider person, and I feel like any kit would be incomplete without it. I also just absolutely love the idea of bonking someone at absolute high velocity, so once I realized it was possible with Anya, I just had to do it. When I was researching Araña's powers and I found out about the Spirit of the Hunter, it made sense to me to make it into an ultimate, as it feels kind of similar to something like the Darkchild or the Final Hulk transformation in the game. In the comics, one of Araña's powers is that she can disappear entirely when she's covered in shadow, but making such a highly mobile character invisible would be absolutely overpowered, so making her projectiles impossible to locate felt like a good way to incorporate that power without making her too OP. Miles Morales comes from the now extinct Earth 1610, having gained his powers in a very similar way to the original Peter Parker Spider-Man, taking over the mantle after he had passed away. Miles currently lives in 616 after his universe is destroyed at the end of the 2015 Secret Wars event. Miles also has developed electrical powers in the form of his Venom Blast strikes, etc. Miles Morales is a strategist with 225 health. For his passive, Miles has Venomized Webbing. If Miles' webs come into contact with an enemy, they create a small 1 meter blast radius that also damages nearby enemies. His Venomized webs also heal his allies. Miles' first ability is called Ultimate Swing. Miles swings as any spider person would. The web he uses to swing is also considered to be venomized and is thus also affected by his Venom Webbing ability. Miles' second active ability is called Venom Sword. Miles loses his ability to use Ultimate Swing, but in turn gains a melee sword that has a large damage amount and a moderate range for a short amount of time. Miles' third ability is called Venom Strike. Miles lets forth a blast of venom energy that affects enemies in a 5 meter long cone ahead of him, temporarily stunning them and healing any allies in the radius of the cone. This ability is on a resource. Miles' ultimate is called Venom Blast. Miles dives down to the ground and lets out a blast of venom energy that stuns all enemies in an 8 meter radius around him and deals large amounts of damage to them whilst healing his own teammates. Miles' team-up is called Soul Venom with Magic, and it is a power-up that Magic can use to extend the reach and damage of her Soul Blade temporarily. Okay, I know that technically Miles' Venom Webs don't heal people, but I gotta be honest, there's other strategists in the game who don't have healing powers in the comics, like Mantis, Jeff, and Sue. So there is a precedent for giving characters healing powers that they don't necessarily have. Plus, I needed to fit Miles into this team because he is pretty much the de facto non-Peter Spider-Man. I feel like for the first ability, I don't really need to explain myself at this point. Every Spider-Person gets a swing. The Venom Saber from the comics is one of the coolest things that has been added to a character's arsenal more than a decade after their creation that I have ever seen. There was no way I was just going to let this thing be underpowered or worse, not present at all, but I had to nerf his mobility just so that this wouldn't become overpowered. Just as with Gwen, Miles is a powerful character and needs an ability that lets him survive an encounter if he gets backed into a corner. His ultimate is literally just one of my favorite moves from Insomniac Spider-Man 2. I absolutely love it, and I needed to see it be put into this game. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't have an idea for Miles' team up, so I just thought that putting the power of one badass yellow sword into another, already massively powerful yellow sword was a fun and novel concept. With that, the team is probably best described now as being complete, but with Venom and Penny on tank, Peter and Arnie on DPS, and Gwen and Miles on support. But in case you don't count Eddie as a spider person, Miguel O'Hara of Earth-928 gained his powers through the sabotage of his attempt to use an experimental machine at his employer Alchemax's facilities to rid himself of an addiction to the drug Rapture. He gained spider-like abilities, sharp retractable claws in his fingers, and fangs that secrete a paralytic venom. His webs are all natural, and he only became a hero to put a stop to the private police force hunting him down. Miguel currently appears to be hiding out on a remote island on Earth-616. Miguel O'Hara is a Vanguard with 575 health. Miguel's passive is Spider Wings. Miguel can use the web-shaped wings built into his costume to glide in a similar style to Moon Knight's Night Glider ability. Miguel's first ability is called Future Swing. It is a swing like any other that lasts for only 1.5 seconds. Miguel's second ability is Paralytic Bite. Miguel bites in front of himself, stunning any enemy that it lands on for a significant amount of time. Miguel's third ability is Slashing Dash. Miguel dashes forward, slicing at any enemies who he passes by, which gives them temporary damage over time bleed. Miguel's ultimate ability is called Spider-Man, Far From Now. Miguel rips out a piece of the ground and hurls it back down using his webs, damaging all nearby enemies. His team-up is Future-Proof with Punisher. Miguel's just able to get some bulletproofish armor plating from Punisher. While most of the inspo that I've taken for this video is from the comics, I just love the build that they gave Miguel in the Spider-Verse movie, so there's absolutely no chance that I wasn't going to take the opportunity now to have this buff man make an appearance in this game. Also, this team needs Vanguards now, and Miguel is too iconic of a variant not to have. There's a simple explanation for his passive. I love gliding around as Moon Knight, and I love gliding in Spider-Man too, so let's give Miguel some web wings. For his swing, I had to try and make it unique, so giving it a time limit, albeit a long one, felt like it was a fun and novel idea. Fun fact, Miguel has fangs in the comics that secrete a paralytic venom. I felt like it was incredibly necessary to give the slow-moving guy a way to stop the smaller and faster supports that he would no doubt be diving in the backline from running away. Giving Miguel another movement ability to make him close the distance was a no-brainer. This guy needs all the help that he can get, as Vanguards tend to move slower. Also giving him another quote-unquote unique part of his arsenal just felt right, as the claws in his hands are the canon reason that he can walk roll in the comics. I'm gonna be honest with this ultimate, I just love picking things up and hurling them down with all of my force in any game imaginable. I'm gonna be honest again, I don't have much knowledge of Miguel, but I also remembered that the Punisher in Marvel Rivals is from 2099, so I just gave him that team up. Also as a Vanguard, I felt it important for Miguel to have some kind of shielding. Alright, now that that's over and done with, I have to go, so... I'm sorry, I've got to take this. Hello? I promised a whole team of 6. I thought I was just filling out an incomplete roster. Oh, well, I guess I have some backups to replace Peter and Penny for a fully original team. Alright, I'll get back to it. I love you, Gary. I love you. I love you too. I love you more. Alright, I gotta get back to it. Alright, bye. I love you more. Okay, I guess I have to deliver on what I promised. Cindy Moon was bitten by the same spider that bit Peter Parker, and was very quickly snatched up and trained by Ezekiel Sims of the Spider Society in how to use her powers for combat. She was hidden away in a special bunker to avoid detection by Morlun for 13 years, eventually being let out by Peter's Spider-Man and becoming the hero known as Silk. Silk is a duelist with 225 health. Silk's passive web claws allow her to do 1.5 seconds of non-stacking bleed upon any melee hit. Her first active ability is called Silk Swing, where she shoots a strand of webbing to swing. Silk's second active ability is called Bunkering Down, where she forms a cocoon around herself that allows herself to heal to 75 overhealth. Silk's third ability is called Web Trap, that uses Resource. Cindy sets up sticky webs that slow down enemies who walk through them. Silk's ultimate ability is called Silk Road. Silk can shoot webs that attach to as many opponents as she can hit in 3 seconds, bundling them up, then yanking them with her webs and throwing them in any direction she chooses. If she throws them onto the ground within a wide cone below her, they take massive damage and are stunned. Silk's team-up is called Sister from Another Spinster, with Spider-Man. Peter is able to expand Silk's web traps by shooting them with his primary fire webs. I wanted Cindy to have a very specific playstyle which kind of shuts off certain obvious entryways, forcing her enemies to take more non-obvious routes. which spreads them out and allows her to take on a couple of people at a time on a flank. In the comics, Cindy has been able to solidify her webbing into small claws on the ends of her fingertips, so I thought that her passive ability was a way to add something quote-unquote unique to her playstyle that players would use to try and find different playstyles, as most spider people are long-range by nature. I don't feel like I need to explain Cindy having a swing. It's become pretty standard throughout this whole video, apart from the next guy, but there's always a next guy. Her bunkering down ability is in reference to her having been locked up in a magical bunker for 13 years to escape Morlun, so I feel like she'd be more at home and safer if she cuts herself off from the outside world. Plus, being on the flanking route, she would be more cut off from the healers, so having a self-heal is kind of important. If the enemies get through her traps, making Cindy's ultimate a last resort that throws enemies back behind her traps or finishes them off makes her quite useful to her team, and gives her a small bit of utility outside of her main playstyle. The only reason that I'm having Spider-Man team up with Cindy is because they're bitten by the same spider, which should probably give them some kind of similar power levels and synergies, and that's about the only good thing that I could think that came out of that. Right, this last guy, I'm only counting as a spider person because technically he's been Spider-Man in the comics. He did possess Peter's body for a little wee while in 2013 and 14. Comic fans know who I'm talking about when I say that, although most people would know him by his other name, which is Dr. Octopus, also known as Dr. Otto Octavius, is one of Spider-Man's main villains, as he debuted all the way back in April 1963 in Spider-Man Volume 1, Issue 3. He became Spider-Man in Amazing Spider-Man 698, and would go on to become Superior Spider-Man. But I fear that this version of Otto might be too similar to Peter, and given that we already have Peter in the game, I'm adding Otto's original body and original form to the game. Also because we need another tank, and Doc Ock isn't exactly petite with all of his tentacle arms going everywhere. Dr. Octopus is a Vanguard with 800 health. Doc Ock's passive is Octo Movement. Doc Ock can crawl anywhere on walls or ceilings, but he never changes the direction that he's looking. Doc Ock's first ability is Backhand. Otto swipes at his enemies with his tentacles, damaging them and sending them flying backwards. Doc's second ability is Semi-Aquatic Flight. Doc Ock can charge up a massive leap. Doc's third ability is Shield Your Master, where his two higher tentacles cover him like a shield. However, if that shield is destroyed, Doc Ock cannot use any ability barring Semi-Aquatic Flight for about 3 seconds. Doc's ultimate is called Get Off Me! Doc's two higher tentacles start swinging around him wildly, sending any nearby opponents flying, stunning them temporarily and dealing decent damage to them for approximately 10 seconds. Doc's team-up is called Respectful Foes with Spider-Man. Pete can web zip to and leap off of Doc's tentacles at will. Doc Ock's entire purpose here is to be kind of a tank that leads the charge and pushes the enemies off of whatever the point is, with his backhand sending opponents flying, and his ultimate dissuading anyone from coming near. The combination of Semi-Aquatic Flight and Shield Your Master allowing him to leap into combat and walk forwards into the enemy front line without ever having to worry about dying too early. Otto's never had to look when he's placing his tentacles, they just let him climb wherever he needs to, so I'd say that him being able to move wherever he likes fits in quite well with his character. Plus everyone else that's been a spider person can wall crawl, so why leave Otto out? When Peter dies at the end of Amazing Spider-Man 700, he entrusts Doc Ock with the name and legacy of Spider-Man, and I feel like that's formed some kind of unspoken trust and bond between these two historic enemies. So to finalize, our final team is number 1, Ghost Spider, a strategist. Number 2, Aranya, a duelist. Number 3, Ultimate Spider-Man, a strategist. Number 4, Spider-Man 2099, a Vanguard. Number 5, Silk, a duelist. Number 6, Dr. Octopus, also known as the Superior Spider-Man, who's a Vanguard. I may have forgotten to mention, but every spider person gets a secondary passive that allows them to wall crawl. I have 2 ideas for alternate team-ups that allow them to work together as a team, and these team-ups do include Penny and Peter, but not Doc Ock, as this version, he's not the Superior Spider-Man. The first idea for a team-up that I had is for every single spider person to be able to do that iconic double foot stomp. There's almost no move more iconic to the Spider brand, and I think it would just work. The second idea that I have is that for every single spider person in the team, everyone's resource counter goes up by 1, with the caveat that the recharge speed is about 5 to 10% slower for every spider teammate. With that now out the way, I feel like that's the end of the video. So tell me any ideas that you have down below, what did you like, what didn't you like, and what you would have done differently. I also want to finalize this video by saying that I'm sorry for the wait. I've been working a lot more recently, and there was a power outage for a short while, so I couldn't get to working on the video whilst I was at home for a couple of days anyways. But to be kind to those that waited, there will be a second video up either tomorrow or in 2 days' time that's more in this style than my previous endeavors. And next time we'll be covering the Midnight Mission, so stay tuned for that. Also like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Alright, ta-ta for now!